Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in just a second. Those of you online, we open the room. You should be jumping in. Let us know that you're here online. We've got a team to greet you, that you guys are jumping into the webinar. Say hello. We're going to be dropping some things in the chat with you guys, and we're going to get started probably in another about 30 seconds or so. Christy, is Chad here today?
Chad, he is in his office.
Because he needs to, we're going to have him do a welcome. Will you check and see if he will come and do a welcome real quick? Or yeah, that'd be great. And then as you guys are coming in online, we'll just let you guys know you're there. We're going to drop the notes in, so they'll be in there for you. If you didn't download the notes, I want to encourage you to do that. Melinda, would you, when we do a welcome, would you welcome from Better Staffing? Because I've got Christy working. Will you do that in just a second? Or Latanya or Jennifer, either one. If you guys want to do a welcome from Meta in just a second. I know they're doing like 1, 2, 3 rock paper scissors back there. I wish you guys could see the room, right? We got a full house. It's going to be fun. We got melted chocolate, hard candy, Panera salad with no dressing. I mean, it's really going to be great. So, and what? And a broken shoe. But we've got Gorilla Glue. We've got Gorilla Glue. So. Listen, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to honor your time, you guys that are jumping on the webinar, thanks for being in here. Let us know you're here. We want to engage. I'm going to be asking questions today. And I've got a survey I'm going to put in there as well, and a poll. I might just ask Val to drop that poll in there now so you can be working on it while we're talking. And I'm going to allow Chad Berg, the president of the Alliance. You call the president? No, what are you called?
Yes,
president. Like, do I need to bow or do anything? Kiss a ring? I could. Listen, we have a lot more fun here, so we want you guys here. The house is almost full. So, and then who's coming from Metter? Did you guys draw lots? Oh, we got the presidents coming. You guys are in today for a treat. We got 2 presidents coming to share with you. They're not past presidents, they are current presidents. So I'm gonna let them welcome you guys, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Rick. Mine's a real quick, easy welcome from the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. We appreciate the opportunity to host this. You can always tell if there's demand and thirst for information by the size of the crowd. So very pleased with the number of folks that are interested in the information that's being put out here. So as the Economic Development Corporation of the Houston Port Region, it's our mission to grow the economy. We want to work in all of the different ways that we can to help our companies in this region be successful. So welcome, and I'll turn it over to the other president.
Oh, it's just a job title. Whatever.
Come over a little more so I can see it.
Yeah. Oh, hi. Hi, community.
You got a webinar too.
I know. I always have to remind myself we're in person and still in Zoom, so in a hybrid situation. But my name is Melinda. I get to serve as the president of Better Staffing Services. And we are just delighted to have you here. We've been partnering with Rick and, of course, Chad and the Economic Alliance for, gosh, Christy, it feels like eternity, but I know it's been, months, but we just really enjoy being able to bring content that's relevant. And I think this is just a really important topic of conversation. I know we've been hearing it from all of our customers, the Great Resignation of 2021. And now kind of in the throes back again with COVID, there's just a lot of conversations being had and how do we maneuver through all of this. So hope you enjoy it. And if there's anything that we can do for you and your teams at Better Staffing, feel free to give us a call and we'll be elated to be able to help you out. So enjoy.
Hang on. I didn't get Chad one because I know you like those more than food. So, see, that's another thing. If you guys were here, I'll be giving out gold nuggets today. So who likes these gold nuggets? Okay, I'm going to go to Amanda, the new member of Ministerial Alliance. Oh, and she caught it too. Well done. I would throw some to you guys, but it would hit the camera, it'd unplug, and then we'd be done. So anyways. All right, so we're going to have some fun today. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Chad. Thank you. We started this in January with, really the end of last year with a conversation about how do we bring value during COVID? How do we continue to talk to you guys and engage you? And I partnered with Better Staffing Services and with the Economic Alliance and their networks of relationships and partners. And we did this intentionally to say, how can we just keep bringing information, a dialogue, connecting you, because I know you guys are working hard. Your head's down and you're sometimes just in the weeds trying to get it done. And so sometimes it's hard to take a breath. This is hopefully areas where you can take a breath. So we did a survey when we first started. The first 6 months of training that we did were a result of about 80 people who responded to a survey. We said, what's your greatest pain point? What do you want to hear? What can we talk about in a short 1 hour period of time that would bring some value or add value to you? So we went through those sessions, the first 6. Then we did an HR roundtable last month. During that roundtable, we had over 30 HR professionals. It was not live. We didn't stream it. You had to come in person, and this room was packed. We had a great conversation, but I really wanted to hear from, honor, and bless those that are working in HR, because they've really had a hard go trying to adjust and pivot and change rapidly over the last, really now, we've been saying a year, then we said 18 months, and now we're pushing 2 years that we've really been in this, right? And there's a resurgence, and that's created a lot more tension. So I'm excited that you guys are here today, even in the midst of some of the tensions that are arising and concerns again, and they're real. But from the HR conversation, we asked the same question: what's the current pain points? What have you learned? What are you learning? We shared thoughts and ideas together, but they also gave us some other ideas of things to talk about. So that's really where this topic came from today. The next 3 or 4 months are all going to be from that conversation of those greatest challenges and pain points that we're feeling, not just across industry here in the SHIP channel, but business in general. Whether you're a nonprofit, you're a sole entrepreneur, you work in business, you're getting started, you're an employee, you're an owner, you're a president, it really doesn't matter. This is impacting all of us. And it's something we all need to be concerned about and talking about, and then learning from each other. That's really what this is about. So I'm excited to share with you guys this morning for a little bit. And what I'm going to do, and you guys are online, I've got another poll I'm going to ask you, because I use a platform. So you guys are here. This is awesome. This is great to see you. Online, I use a platform, but it's a webinar. So you guys online don't get to interact very much, or you can type some stuff in the chat. I'm thinking about changing platforms because we're going to continue to do a hybrid so we can continue to reach more people. But we'd love to see your faces. So I'm looking at going to a Zoom type platform where you guys can engage more. You can unmute yourself and talk and ask questions, because I want to start creating more of a dialogue. You guys don't need another talking head. And the problem with that is I'm a pretty good talking head. You just ask my family. But I want to hear from you. I want to dialogue. I want to learn from you, because I believe in the mastermind. And the mastermind is the idea that we are stronger together and that we're smarter together. And so I wanted to share this time as we started. I'm going to drop a poll online. If you guys like this platform and you prefer to be more behind and not know that you're there, that's fine. You can still do that on Zoom. If you'd rather interact more and you're not going to make it in person, let me know, and that should have gone in there. Were we able to drop that in? Mm-hmm. Great. So let us know what your thoughts are, and we're going to try to continue to improve how we're putting things together. So I appreciate that. So as we get started, I also want to do this. I'm going to source the information now, because I'm going to talk to you about a lot of things. And I am not in your industry, but I don't have to be in your industry or your job or your profession to talk about leadership, to talk about growth, to talk about the challenges. What I do is I work with a lot of companies across industry, from small business owners to the SHIP channel to organizations like Konica, Nippon Shokubai, with Metter Staffing, with the Alliance here, with the school district, with the hospital system. So I'm working with businesses and industry across the board. And when I work with them, I ask a lot of questions. How are you doing? What's your biggest challenge? How can I serve you and come alongside you when you're focused on your job? Where do you need your arms lifted up? Where could you use support? It is not only my pleasure and joy to do that, but it's my job. And so I also do it as a profession, and I love adding value to people and organizations. So I share that with you, but I'm going to talk about a lot of things, and I want to make sure that you guys have got the sources. If you guys want sources or where I've gotten this information, and you want more detail about it, let me know afterwards, and I'll make sure to give you guys everything. But a couple things so you know. So I do a lot with Forbes. Forbes Online gives a lot of great information. SHRM, as you guys know, is always putting out information. So I've researched through SHRM. There's some magazines and articles that I read quite a bit. Inc. is another one online that puts out a lot of good information. There's an industry magazine that actually I got from Metter Staffing. It's the first time I saw that magazine, but it's a really excellent magazine. And they had an article in there called the Turnover Tsunami, and it's called Chief Executive is the magazine. So that's another one. Great resources there. Microsoft Research is putting stuff out, and then Tech Republic on the Great Resignation. So that's some of the sources of the information, just so you guys know. And then my conversation with companies and industries as we've gone through this. This topic came out of a conversation with 30 HR professionals last month. So last thing before we get started, and I'm going to jump in, one more plug for you guys online, and I'm going to ask my team to drop it in. This isn't you, Val. It's the other team. I do a monthly newsletter, and it's a simple newsletter, but the topic for this next month, the newsletter is Leader's Edge, and the topic is how do you build all-star teams in a hybrid world? And so there's an article in that newsletter. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you guys here can let me know on your sign-in in there. I'll make sure you get it. The next article comes out tomorrow, and they come out once a month. Short, simple articles about relevant and timely topics. So if you want to subscribe to Leader's Edge, it's a transformational leadership newsletter. I want to encourage you guys to do that as well. All right, enough there. Real quick, how many of you in the room, is this your first time? And how many of you online, if you'll put first time in the chat, I want our team to see how many of you guys, this is your first time to join us. I want to take a second and quickly introduce myself. I won't spend a lot of time here, but I do want to let you know kind of my background and why I'm standing here. I've been a growth catalyst. I've worked in leadership development and training really my whole life, but intentionally the last 5 to 7 years, I started a company called Right Now Leadership. The purpose of Right Now Leadership is to do leadership development, training. I do conflict resolution, communication training, employee engagement. And I love to work with organizations to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. So that's a passion of mine. I'm an executive director with John Maxwell. How many familiar with John Maxwell and his organization? So I've been trained with John Maxwell, and I recently got certified as a success coach with Success Magazine. It's been around for 125 years, and so I do a lot of individual, personal, and team coaching for organizations and for leaders of all kinds, really. So that's a little bit about me. The most important thing, I've been married 30 years. I've got 2 amazing kids, 26 and 22, or 27 and 23. I don't know what they are. But they're in their 20s. It just all blurs at that point. They're on their own. They're at home. You know, they're figuring it out. And so, so anyway, so that's my passion, is my family, my kids, and my passion is serving and helping you guys. As we start, I want to also put a question in your head to be thinking about as we go through. Because I don't want this to just to be more information. I want you to walk away with things that are going to help you, that you can apply into your world and your days right now. But I want to ask a question for you to ask yourself. What's next? I want you to start asking, what's next? So this is great. This information is nice, but what's next? What happens after this? What do I do with this information? How do I apply it? How is my life, my leadership, my team, my relationships, my business going to be different because of any of this information? Or really, if you've been coming for a while, any of the topics and information we've shared? What's next? So you get free lunch here. You guys that are online, hopefully you've got a good lunch where you're eating, but after that, if you're not getting anything out of it, if you're not applying it, if you're not looking for ways to grow yourself with this or your team, then why are you here? Right? And I don't mean that rudely, but we need to be continual learners, looking to grow and develop ourselves. You can't grow others if you don't invest in growing yourself. The limit of your people around you will be the limit of your own growth, right? And so it's important to invest in yourself, and you're doing that by being here today. So that's really the question I want to ask you guys is what's next? And I'm going to offer you some thoughts at the end of this of ways for you to continue to grow your leadership, grow your teams, and the impact in your organization. Okay. So everything we've talked about, every topic is simply an entry point to more, to greater understanding. All of these 45, 50-minute, hour lunch and learns we've done, they're just surface level. If any of them resonate with you and say, man, our company would love this, or we'd like to go deeper, you need to let me know. Okay, any questions or thought on that? We're good in the room? Little thumbs up, little head nod, and you're eating? Okay, we're great. All right, so let me do this. We're going to start. We're going to jump in, and I'm going to start with a question. I'm actually going to ask you guys in the room to participate, and you guys online can put it in the chat. So we're going to read this quote. It says, more than half of employees in North America plan to look for a new job in 2021. That's a SHRM report. Okay? So I believe we learn best from each other. So let me ask you guys a question. When you hear this quote, you read this, what do you think about? What emotion, what comes up when you see this and you hear this? Go ahead, go ahead.
Probably unsatisfied with where they're at.
So maybe people aren't, so the question that came up is why are this number of people, more than half employees, thinking about leaving? And you went right to a possible answer. Maybe they're unsatisfied. But the question is why? Why is this number of people looking at leaving or resigning from their job? What else comes to mind? What else do you feel when you hear this?
It's an HR nightmare.
An HR nightmare, yeah. Yeah. It's a business nightmare. It's an owner nightmare. It's a hiring manager nightmare, right? It's like, okay, oh my gosh, if that's true, and that happens in our world in any proportion. And I could say this: how many of this is already happening in your world? Yeah, right. So it's not a future thought; it's a reality. What else? When you see this, what's some of the emotion? What comes to mind? What is your experience?
A career pathway.
A career pathway change. That people are looking for a change, right? They're looking for something different. And we could ask, well, why is that? What's happened in the last 18 months in their personal lives to say, I'm no longer satisfied, right? Amanda?
There were also a lot of people looking for new jobs because they were let go because of COVID.
Yeah.
I was looking for a lot of new jobs last year.
Yeah, so the people that are looking that didn't leave intentionally on their side of it, they were let go. So this is not necessarily talking about those that were forced out of their job because of COVID things that happened. This is just people who've got a job right now. They are working and in place. They could keep working there, and they're thinking, I'm leaving. I'm going to find something else. Yes, ma'am.
What in a pre-COVID, what would be a normal percentage?
Okay, I'm going to ask my professionals. Ms. Metter, Ms. Torsen, what did you guys find pre-COVID? What did you notice, or what have you seen in that? Do you know?
My personal opinion, I mean, that feels
It's a professional
that feels
one.
like forever. I think this number, honestly, has always been. I do think the percentage is higher. I even, hear in other platforms and things that I read, is that this number is actually higher. We're seeing in some other articles, 70 to 80% are actually considering, leaving their current employer for a new position. So honestly, 50%, I really think that was 40 to 50%, I think was a reality pre-COVID.
I read an article just this morning as we were putting stuff, or yesterday as I was kind of continuing to research, said 79%. So I mean, 50% feels a lot. But here's the thing, we're going to talk about this as we go through this, is this has always happened. People have always left their jobs. This is not new. So we got to kind of breathe a little bit. But the circumstances, the awareness, the way things are happening, that's not new, right? That is new. That's like, okay, the attitudes, the mindsets, the way things are happening, that is all new. There's difference there. People are always looking, and some people are always wanting to advance or career change or whatever it might be. It is just now the talk, the sensitivity to it is off the chart.
That's what I think. I
Yep.
think it's awareness.
We got one online, so somebody online, okay?
Yes, her response from local health is that is a, where did she go? It's just a high cost for the company. That's what comes to her mind.
So she's seeing it through the dollars.
Yeah.
In her role, she's with Global Health. Yeah, and so she's looking at that. So thank you for the question or that statement. She's looking through the bottom line, the dollars, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, right? So here's the thing. Through COVID, there's so much frustration. There's fear that's on the rise. Expectations are being adjusted and readjusted every day, right? You've got candidates and employees who are frustrated, and we're not talking about the fringe ones on the extremes that are out there. We're talking about just the regular ones, good people. They're frustrated. They're struggling. They're looking, they've got pressures they didn't have before. Maybe they have a spouse or significant other who's lost a job and the weight's heavier and they've got to look. There's so many different things that come into play that are up front in right there than there ever have been before. And then you've got the employers, right? And their frustration is business is coming back. People need product. They need to fill jobs and positions to put out their product and their services. And yet they're struggling finding those people. And then they're feeling captured or trapped by the candidate market who says, well, we only want this and we need this. And how do we do this? And so their frustration's building. And what do you have happening? You've got a perfect storm. You've got a perfect storm, even with good people and good employers and people who mean well. And we lose those people in the midst of the extremes that overwhelm us because what? We're tired. We're exhausted. And just when we thought we were getting a break and we had new systems and processes and we thought, we can take the masks off and open our doors and kids will all be back in school. And then this Delta variant and then this increase and then this shift. And And then here we are again. And I'm not trying to bring you down, but the reality is, I said this in an earlier conversation that we had. Here's the reality. Normal is what we're in right now. Don't think about going back to normal or getting back to normal or what normal used to be. Normal is where you find yourself today, and it's yours. It isn't everybody else's. And tomorrow you're going to walk into a new normal. That's tomorrow. And the sooner you own that, the sooner you embrace the fact that normal is a changing thing in my life, you can begin to lead into it in strength and understand, no, things are constantly moving in such a manner. I'm not going to move with the roller coaster. I'm going to move through this roller coaster and realize what can I control and what can't I control. I heard a quote a couple years ago with a Live to Lead. I don't remember. Some of you may remember. I don't remember who it was that said it, but she said, control the controllable. Live your life in such a way where you focus on controlling what you can control. But we spend tons of energy, time, and emotion trying to control the things that we can't. And we don't even realize we're doing it until we're exhausted. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit more as we get into this. So the Great Resignation. There's 3 questions we're going to kind of hit through real quickly. I'm going to ask for some engagement with you. The questions are this. Who's leaving? Okay, and right there, your minds all went to stuff, right? What's your experience? It's going to ask you. Why are they leaving? This is a harder question because it isn't one answer. And then what can we do about it? Is there anything we can do in that process? And I think there is, and that's the takeaways we're going to talk about at the end. Again, remember what I said, control the controllables, right? And be thinking about what's next as we go through this. So you're going to go through this, we go, okay, how do I begin to engage this? And what do I need to be able to do it? So people are talking also about the exodus from the workforce. So let's try to get a little bit better look, if we can, at what's happening. So we're going to look at these 3 questions. Let's start with the first one. Who is leaving the workforce? Now, in your notes that you guys have, and if you printed them out, on the left-hand column, I've listed just a few things. Now, I want to go through those, but I also want to hear from you. You guys that are online, I'm going to ask a question in a minute. I want to give you a heads up to put them in there. But who do you see is leaving? What's your perspective on who's leaving? And what have you experienced? Go ahead and put that in the chat, and our team will let me know here in just a minute. But I want to ask you guys this. So some are leaving altogether, and then others are just leaving you, right? Some are leaving industry, business. They're retired. They're just done. They have the ability to do that. Then there's a lot who are leaving you. They're leaving your space, your office, your team. Right? And so there's 2 different things that are happening that have been put into motion largely because of the environment and the climate that we're working in. 40% of employees are thinking of quitting their jobs. The World Economic Forum. That's another way of spinning what we just said. Right? 40% of employees are thinking about quitting their jobs. 79% are thinking about, I don't care what the number is, there's a lot of people that are contemplating something different as we sit here. In fact, I won't ask you to raise your hands, but I wonder how many of you in this room or watching on the webinar in the last 30 days, 60 days, 7 days, 4 hours have thought about leaving their job. You may not have meant it, but you thought about it. You may have said, man, if I could only, or what am I doing? Does it really matter? Is there a better place? Can I get more? Is it greener on the other side? Right? I mean, if you're real and you're being honest, that's a real feeling, right? We're like, is there a place that this is going to go away that I can live or operate or work in? Generation Z, I found this really interesting. This is the newest age group that's just now coming into the workforce. They're max age about 22. So the Gen X and Gen Z guys are they're crossing. So you've got a kind of mix of an overlap. So it's not just defined as clearly, but this young group that's graduating school and coming into the workplace right now, they're looking at not even wanting to go into the workplace. They're looking at resigning and leaving the workplace. Now, where are they going to end up? Any of you moms and dads out there with kids that have been out there? Where are they going to end up? They're going to end up knocking on your door. Now, whether or not you open the door or not, that's on you. But that's where they're going to end up because they're dissatisfied. They're getting frustrated. What the statistics said is they are experiencing this digital stress and anxiety from all that's happening, the anxiety of the digital world that they're going through. So I found that really interesting. The youngest group that's entering the workforce are actually becoming one of the most frustrated. What does that say for our future? Right? Because they're the ones that we're counting on raising up and bringing in. And if they're frustrated coming in, that adds another thought or dimension. I'm going to ask you guys to give me your feedback in just a second, but let's look at the next one. 80% of those who left the workforce since COVID, and guys, and I'm looking in the room, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 men in the room of about 25 people that's in this room, give or take, somewhere in there, 25 or 30. 80% of those who left the workforce since COVID began have been women, according to the American Census Bureau. Women. That's a large percentage of the workforce that is not going back into work or has left. I can't tell you why, but I think some of you may have some ideas. There's some things that they're stating, but that's a tough one. Because regardless of what people believe about traditional values, it isn't really necessarily about that. But when kids got put back in their homes, right, and they're looking, and maybe it's a single mom, right, who's now got to decide, how do I take care of my child and how do I provide for my family, or a couple situation where the husband may be making more money. And so it's like, well, the only thing we can do is make this adjustment. And then they make that adjustment and say, well, is it worth going back into the workforce? Or just a lot of things going on. But that's a large percentage. 80% of those who left the workforce are women. If you read even further, and I think this makes more sense into our demographic here, it talks about, and I think I've got in your notes, what does it say about the Latinas or Hispanic women? Is that in the side of your notes? I'm looking to see if I have it in my notes here.
Yes.
What does it say? Tell me what it says on yours. I don't think I wrote it down.
Left the workforce more than any other demographic.
Yeah. So of all demographics, the Latinas, the Hispanic women have left at a higher rate than any other demographic. So let me just ask you guys, let's just stop for a second and let's talk about that. The other thing is, so I say this before we do this. The other thing that's happening is early retirement. You got the boomers, and this is a big deal. And we're going to talk, some of you guys mentioned this. We've got boomers leaving the workforce. They're just done. They're in a position that they can, for those that are. They're in a position, they're just saying, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to put up with it anymore. I'm tired of the mess. I'm tired of this. And they're leaving or starting their own thing, or they're retiring, right? When you lose someone who's been there 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, you're not just losing a body out the door. It's a whole nother conversation. But they're walking, they're done, they're cashing it in. And the ripple of that. So I'm going to open it up now. So give me your thoughts. What are your experiences? What are you feeling? Let's jump online with some of the people online, Christy.
Yeah, a lot of them did address the younger generation. A gentleman with Kenco Bucket said that his unhappy employees looking for better pay or better opportunities. A lot of them mentioned about the younger workers. Renee said that senior leaders are leaving. One of my clients had 5 senior leaders transition.
Hang on. One client had 5 senior leaders transition. Now, I don't know about the size of your business or your company, and it really doesn't matter, but put that in your percentage. 5 senior leaders within a short period of time decide they're moving on. What would that do to your organization?
Yes. And one even said leaving public sector for the private.
Yep. Yeah, moving out of the public sector into the private sector. Moving away from government regulations and all the things they're having to try to find a place of their own control where they can, but is there any place for that, right? Do you really have any control? There's so much going on. So talk to me a little bit in the room, and what else? What are you guys seeing? When you see that and you think about that, what has your experience been, or what are you observing about those who are leaving the workforce? What's your experience been? You guys are all good? We haven't had anybody in the room experience?
Actually, we have 4 people leaving this Friday. One's retired. She's been with us for 23 or 25 years. And then others found other employment.
So let me ask you a question. I don't want to get deep into your world, right? So one's retiring. Would that person have retired, you think, if life had been what we were calling normal? Would this have been a normal retirement place in general?
She says she's tired.
Yeah, right. And so where is that? Right. How many? Okay, let me, you guys, I want to see your hands online. How many of you would say, I'm tired?
Well, we all are.
Okay. Okay. You know, I wish I could turn the camera around, and you guys, we all needed to be sitting at your desk, wherever you were. Raise it high so maybe your boss across the hall, or why is he raising his hand in his office? Because I'm tired. Listen, I'm going to give you permission. This is a whole nother thing that I do with my coaching. I want you all to do this for a second. And then you guys online, go ahead and do it out loud. It's okay. People won't think you're crazy. I want you to say this. I feel tired and it's okay. Say it out loud.
I feel tired and it's okay.
How did you feel when you said that? Did you, but I mean, I say that it's like my shoulders relax a minute because I'm able to admit something out loud. I feel, doesn't mean that I'm quitting. It doesn't mean I'm resigning. It doesn't mean I'm giving up. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It just means that I feel tired. And feeling tired is okay. What you do with the tired, how you address it, how you get help, how you approach it, how you get coaching, how you do whatever you need to do to go through the tired is what's going to make the difference. Because we're all tired. Tired isn't the problem. The problem is how we address it and feel about it and deal with it. And if we're leading and we have people underneath us that we're coaching and that we're trying to lead, how we help them say that and acknowledge that it's okay to feel tired. Yet I am not going to quit. Yet I am going to. Yet we will. Yet we're going to. Whatever it is, we're going to keep pressing through. We're not going to sit in. And that's the hardest place. Because sometimes it's hard to get up and out when you're feeling down and in it. Yes, sir.
I think the interesting dilemma is that we're at a time when you have less and less time to spend with your employees when you need to be spending more time with them.
Yeah.
Be talking to them. These people leave, there shouldn't be many surprises in there.
Right.
And there's some you should be glad that they're leaving. I mean, there's all things.
Right.
But the flip side of this is if you think strategically and look at all those pictures there, there's some people out there that, man, we'd like to have come work for us that would have never talked to us last year.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that
They're
too.
tired and they're frustrated and now they talk.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. So that whole thought, right? That idea of people that are leaving and, some that were not sad that they're leaving, right? But the reality is, and we're going to talk about this, we're talking about who, but we're going to transition to why, a little bit about why. There's not one reason why. There's a lot of reasons. And as we talk about that, because there are things we can do to create the greatest and best opportunity and environment for people to stay. But we can't beg them. We're not going to chase them. But I think what I've learned in working with industry and businesses is what businesses have learned about themselves is they've done a poor job of engaging their employees prior to COVID ever happening. They were just all working. They're not going to leave. They got nowhere else to go. It's a candidate shortage. So you're working for me and you're going to be here in this position. And they wouldn't say that. It's not like you're going to, but they're living and building their business that way. They're growing their people that way. And then when everything got exposed, leadership in a lot of organizations and companies went, oh my goodness, we have not engaged our employees. Oh my goodness, our culture isn't what we thought it was. Oh, our values really aren't ingrained in our people. We don't even know what they are, right? And then your statement was, we're too busy to spend time where we need to spend time. We're going to talk about that real briefly, because that's the other thing is the question is, why am I too busy to spend time on the most important asset I have? And if you are, then nothing's going to change, right? So we got to step out and look into. Here's what I in my coaching, I'll talk to people, and I've got a person, amazing leader that's running an amazing organization that I'm coaching. And in talking to her about she was in the weeds. And how many of you guys ever feel like you're in the weeds? What's in front of you? Just in the weeds. She's a great leader. She does great with her people. But she's been so in the weeds, she couldn't get a good perspective. And so what I said is sometimes you got to do that little, what's that little dude when you put his nose up, sitting there? What is that? I don't remember what's that called. What's that? That's an old cartoon. Anyone help me? Where he's got his little nose sitting there? Kilroy. Thank you. All right. Dating myself. That's a picture I got. Okay, guys, this is as good as it gets. All right. So I'm sorry. But here's the thing I want you guys to understand. When you're in the weeds, what do you see? Weeds. It's all you see. And then everyone around you becomes part of the weeds. And so they're parts of the problem. You just see weeds. You have got to take a breath and get out over the weeds and look into the weeds. Because until you can look over and into, you can't see a way out. All you see is weeds. And then that's all you're fighting is the weeds. You're just fighting the urgency of the moment. I'm not saying you can't fight that or you stop fighting it, but you'll never get out of it if you don't figure out a way to get up and over and to look into and get a different perspective. That's where the freedom begins. not from in the weeds trying to sickle them all down, right? I grew up on a farm and we had to take that big scythe and we would clean out the weeds. And I said, well, Dad, we're killing everything. He said, yeah, you just got to clear it all out and we'll start over. How many of you have the ability can just clear it all out and just start over? Nobody. It doesn't work that way. I wish. I heard someone say, I wish, right? So let's keep moving. So, okay, great job, you guys. Any other comments or questions in here about that or anything else stand out? Because I want to go into the why. Okay? So why are people leaving? It's a little harder to pin this one down. From all the research that I've done, and you guys may have found some other ones, there isn't one dominant answer. Some people immediately think, well, it's money. They're going because there's more money, because that's the carrot that's being thrown out in front of them, right? And so all of a sudden people are enticed because you're increasing my pay or my base pay by 20, 30, 50%. And so we think that's why they're leaving. Because all of a sudden, and they think, oh, and then I'm going to leave and get 50% more and be in an environment that's going to be so wonderful. It's going to be roses. It's going to be easy, because they're thinking it's just about the money. And it's not just about the money, but that money is a huge carrot that entices people. It's the grass is greener. How many? I know some of you in here, you've had people leave thinking the grass was greener, and they called you and said, can I come back? I've worked with a lot of people who somewhere down the road, they're saying, they left, they let them go, and they're going, it wasn't what I thought it was. Can I have my job back? So why are they leaving? What COVID has done, and I want us to understand this, it's exposed issues and challenges across the board in both companies and with employees. The good thing, if you leverage it, because every challenge is an opportunity for growth, every challenge is an opportunity for something greater, if you look at it that way, then what COVID did in exposing a lack of leadership or leadership gaps, exposing a lack of engagement, exposing a lack of clarity of vision or culture of how we work together. It has exposed a lot of things. I'm going to tell you that's a good thing. If you're willing to own it and then do something about it, to be creative, to look at your team, to start addressing these issues in an innovative way, because there's some things you can't control, but there's a lot more that you can control. And that's where our energy should be. So some of these reasons existed before COVID, just not in these numbers that we're seeing. Also, the impact up front in the conversation that's been different is this mental health issue, right? The mental health, the emotional health. It's always been there at some degree, but with the onslaught of the social media and this other stuff, the influences that are happening all the time, it's much more intense and it's much more in front of us than it's ever been. And so how are we dealing with that? How are we addressing that? How are companies dealing with that? And there's some employers that I've talked to that have been around for 40 or 50 years, and they just don't get it. Mental health, just do your job. Show up at work, come in on time. Here's the expectations. Here's what we need to do. What's the big deal? What's so hard about that? Some of you are thinking I'm crazy, but and some of you are going, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I don't say that, but that's I feel that way, right? But I don't necessarily say that. So these are all the things that we're dealing with. So I've given you guys a list in your notes, the back. There's another 15 things, and I want to talk about those. But I want to ask again. So you guys online, I want you to start putting in there. Why do you see people leaving? So you guys online, we're ready to hear from you. Put in there, why are people leaving? What do you perceive? And then what do you see as a reality? And then let's go through some of these. So, sorry. Let me go back. There we go. Some of the reasons why people are leaving, right? And it's interesting. I want you to note if you notice anything in these. And these are the top. They're not in any priority order, but I was looking and said, hey, what's the top 10, top 15, top 7 reasons why people are saying they're leaving? We don't have, I couldn't find any current stats for where we're sitting right today. So most of this is going to be throughout 2020. We're just starting to find stuff in 2021. So I just need to share that with you. This isn't the last 6 or 8 months really that we're seeing, because that's a little bit different, but I don't think it's that different. So concern for career advancement. Okay, let me ask you a question. Has that issue of concern for career advancement just now come up for the first time? Or has that been something that's probably been around? Probably been around. Adding skills and training for new positions. So one of the things that happened in COVID, how many of you or people you know within your organization went out and got some greater skill sets? They took that time to go strengthen their skills and their abilities. Maybe they took a certification course. Maybe they got some extra credits. They did some things to better themselves. Why do you think they were doing that? To help you and your business? Probably not so much, although it does, to reposition them so that they could go out and do something. They added skills and training so they could go after new positions. They're positioning themselves, right? More flexibility, lack of remote work options. We're going to talk about that. I'm just going to say this, and we'll say it several times. The remote world is not going away. Remote working will not ever leave. Now, that doesn't mean you have to accept it. It doesn't mean you have to do anything with it, but you need to understand it's not ever going to leave. And the new incoming workforce is going to be more used to and expecting that remote will be an option for them at some level. It's like the Gen Zs. Do you know that they're the only generation alive that has never known life without a smartphone? The Gen Xers, the ones just above them, my kids that are at the top end, they didn't have all that when they were younger. This generation at 6 months had a phone in their hand, learned how to play games or watch videos or do stuff. They have never known life without a smartphone. That's this workforce that's coming in to where we're at right now. So think about it this way. There's people coming into the workforce that are going to never have known life that's all 100% on site. That's going to be foreign to them. We're not there now, but you need to understand there's a whole generation that's going to think, well, isn't it normal that we work 3 days on and 2 days off at home? Isn't it normal that we can work at the coffee shop or anywhere we want? That's normal, isn't it? There's a generation that is starting to, that's all that they're going to know. What do we do? How do we approach that? How do we engage that? Right? It's going to take some creativity. Company culture or lack of culture that got exposed. And people realize, do I really want to work here? They don't feel like they care for me. Or you go, man, that person really doesn't fit our culture. I'm glad it'd be good if we'll help them find so it's both sides. It's not just one way or the other, but things got exposed in this. People's character. You guys hear this all the time. I do a lot of training on personal vision and values, right? What's inside when we get squeezed comes out. Do you guys believe that it's true of a person? What gets squeezed in us? When we get squeezed, whatever's in us, whoever we are, shows up. And we may not like what shows up. A lot of people didn't like what started showing up out of them over the last 18 months. My coaching process increased because people said, I didn't know that was still in me. But I got so pressed, and this came out, and wow, where did that come from? Right? It's not only true for individuals, it's true for companies. When companies get squeezed, you see what that company's culture and character is all about. How do they respond? How do they act? How do they take care of their people? And that culture of that company, the true culture, shows up when that company gets pressed. So that's happened across the board, right? The inconsistent, out-of-touch leadership. I hear that a lot from the younger people. Doesn't make it true. But that's a perception, and perception is a reality to the person that holds it. So you can't ignore perceptions. Perceptions aren't always true. They're not based on truth most of the time. But it doesn't matter. If I hold that perception and I believe it to be true, you're not going to convince me it's not. And so we have to understand that even if it's not true, how do I deal with the perception that is out there of how they're seeing us or how they're seeing the job or how they're seeing what we're doing? Here's another thing. I'm going to have way more information, but this is another thing that people don't understand. And you guys that have people underneath you or run businesses, you sit in a certain seat. How many of you have people underneath you? You sit in a management or leadership position where you're responsible for people underneath you. Online? Okay. The people that are underneath you, do they sit in the same seat that you sit in? No, they don't. Which means they don't get to see what you see. Yet everyone below us has an opinion about how we sit in that seat and how we should do it. Listen, that's just truth. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't mean they shouldn't have it, but they do. They have a perception of how you sit in that seat. But they're not sitting there, because every seat you sit in that's higher, you get a different perspective. It broadens. And so as we move up, we see more. So the people down here that are worried about you not making the right decisions about COVID and why aren't you deciding this and that, they don't realize that this seat has a different layer, and this seat has another layer, and this seat has another layer. So it's not as simple as the seat you're sitting in. But that's a real feeling in a place that person sits in. And we as leaders, our job is to help them understand and bring them along and help them understand the perspective of what's happening. One of the things you'll see is we'll mention here briefly is that what they really want is I want decisions made today. Give me clarity right now. What's the policy? They're tired of going, well, you know, we think we'll do this and maybe we'll do this and then we're going to close the doors and then we're going to do COVID and distancing. And they're saying, stop, just tell me. Tell me what the policy is. Are we working remote or aren't we? Can we work 1 day a week or can't we? They want clarity. They don't care about all that's going on. They're feeling tossed. Now, are you feeling tossed? Yes. But your people are your greatest asset. And we're going to talk about that. So let me ask you real quick, open it up to you guys. What are you seeing? Right? What are some of the reasons why people are leaving? Some of you guys in the room and online, what do you got, Christy? Anybody?
Online, it says they don't want to be held accountable for anything. Another comment is the company isn't meeting their personal needs or not willing to take steps to make things better or be accountable for.
That's that first one, right?
Yeah.
That's a statement of frustration, and I hear you, and I see it everywhere. We're so frustrated. We're just like, listen, say it again. What did they say? How did they say it?
They don't want to be held accountable.
Employees they don't want to be held accountable.
What does that even mean? For anything.
For anything. It doesn't, that's a perception, right? I'm not saying something, but that's a mindset is take responsibility for your job. Get up and show up. Don't be asking for this. Don't be entitled here. That's the feelings that people are having internally and emotionally. And so they don't take accountability for their own emotion, their own feeling, whether they get up or they don't. Here's the reality, guys. I'm getting stressed just thinking about it. Like, we were free a little while ago, and now we're just way down again. So you remember, you just admit your feelings. I am feeling overwhelmed, and it's okay. Doesn't mean I'm going to live there, but trust me, that statement works. I am not kidding. It's a proven an NLP thing that it's a neurologically, when you acknowledge that feeling, it doesn't mean you're owning it and you live there, but you're saying, I feel this way and it's okay. And then you finish it. But here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm going. Here's how I'm engaging. Here's truth. But we don't acknowledge how we feel, so we can never get past it because it's so heavy. So that's just a side. I'll send you the bill for that one later. Okay, anybody in here? Just what you're seeing. Anybody else? Yep.
I've thought about this for a long time, and over my lifetime, I started out where you went to a company you expected to stay there till you retired. But I think employment has become very transactional now. And what I mean is, like, I'm standing there and I see, okay, there's a Chili's over there and there's an Applebee's over there. Where am I going to go for lunch today? Oh, I'll go over there. I think employment has become like that. And part of it is because there used to be an implicit contract between employee and employer.
Right.
That's totally gone away. Yeah. And I know the company will let me go when they feel like it, so I'll let the company go when I feel like it. Right.
It's almost like athletes, right? You see this thing, they're taking control of their own world now, and they're saying, no, I want this and I want this, and you're going to cut me, so I want, it's just this back and forth. It's the me, which I'm not blaming, I'm not judging, I'm saying, but everyone's like, okay, I've got to look out for me. The company won't, or no one else will, or the company says, I got it. And here's the reality, guys, this is okay. When you hire someone, it's all about your business, period. They don't have to like it. They don't have to stay there. But the reality is, and I coach people when I'm working with their team saying, as long as you get a paycheck with this name on it, your responsibility is to represent and serve that organization to the best of your ability across the board with your words and your actions. And if you can't, then you need to find another place to be. And it's a benefit to them and to you. Right? And that's not being rude or ugly. That's just the truth because I'm paying. But I can't lord that over them and say, I'm paying your check. You're going to do what I say when I say and how I want to say it. That's where I think we miss it. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Right? Some things that we need to look at. So let's keep moving. We're going to run out of time. So I really want to look at this one. What is your company's most valuable asset? Go ahead. Let me hear you. People online you can put in there. Huh? What people? Huh?
The employees.
Employees, not just people. It's not your product. It's not what you build. You're not your widget. It's not what you create. It's not your service. Because none of that matters if you don't have people. Now, how many of you guys online in here have ever built out a strategic plan or a business plan? Anyone ever done a strategic plan or business plan for your business? Okay, the rest of you are lying because I know whether you've written it down or not, you've done one. And I've sat in with some people as they're doing it. And how much, so anyone paid someone to come in to help build a strategic plan or a business plan? Anybody pay a consultant? I'm working with a company right now that's asking me to help them do their strategic planning for their entire organization, right? Big deal. I spent all day yesterday starting it out. They needed a facilitator to help them go through the process, okay? It's not a plug for what I do. I'm kind of. But here's the thing. They're spending good money to bring me in to be a consultant to help them facilitate building their strategic plan. It's not cheap. But they're willing to spend that to build a business plan and a business model for their business. But then when I come into a company and say, hey, what's your number one asset? People. How much are you spending on your people? Growing them, leadership development and training, not just services which, hey, you can go get some continuing ed and here's some SHRM credits, show up for a 1 hour lunch and learn. Woo! We're spending thousands of dollars to build a business plan, and we're spending little to nothing on building our people, a people plan. What's your people plan? What's your people strategy? What's your pathway strategy? What's your engagement strategy? That's really what we're talking about, because people, here's the other thing I said this earlier, I gotta watch my time. People are appreciating assets. Do you understand what I'm saying? People are appreciating assets. Someone tell me what they think that means. What does it mean when I say you're an appreciating asset? People.
They become more valuable the more they learn. I mean,
golly, you wanted one earlier. Excuse me, guys. Someone catch for it. I'm going to have to send. Wait, I know. I'm sending two because that ain't getting to her. Here you go. Here comes another. Oh, that's a good catch. Say it loud and proud. I want you to say it again so people online can hear it.
now I forget what I said.
Ah, throw me that candy back. I want it back.
They become more valuable.
The longer someone is with you, the more valuable they become. To your business, to your brand, to everything that you do. And it isn't because you pay them more. It's because they know more. It's because they've been there longer. It's because they have studied and researched, have experiences. They carry your culture, your heart. You trust them because they're in leadership over people. The longer someone's there, it's an appreciating asset. How, if you had appreciating assets in your portfolio, would you easily let it go? Oh, I'm just going to let this one go. This one's generating a 75% return. I love it. I'm just going to sell it off. We don't. That's insane. People would think you're crazy allowing them to leave that asset that you have in your portfolio that's producing at a 75% profit rate. And you said, I'll just sell it. But it's going to keep, no, just sell it. You wouldn't do it. So why do we take that approach with our people? Why are we not? And it's what you had said. We're so busy and so focused, too much going on, the crisis to crisis. We don't have time for our people. A friend of mine who I do some coaching with and was one of my former students, he says if you don't take time for your wellness, you will take time for your illness. That's his logo, his statement. If you don't take time for your wellness, you will have to take time for your illness. Brian Johnson says that. That's true in every area of life. If you don't take time for your people, you will take time for the loss of your people. And you will be forced to make decisions and do things. But now that you've lost an appreciating asset and you have to hire at this level, it isn't going to take the time that you would have taken to make sure this person's happy in there. It's going to take 100% more time to get them up to speed, to train them, to... I'm getting exhausted again. Huh?
So if you can get them to do it.
And if you can't get them to do it?
So if you can get them to do it.
And if you can't get them to do it?
Then
it's time to go, and they're going to go anyways. But this way, here's the thing, that mindset, right? If I can only get them to do it. No. If you're doing your part with compassion and leadership, growing and showing a pathway, and they're not willing to do that, and you don't take an action because you're giving up control, they'll take an action, and there will be a residual effect of their action, or you take control, and there's a smaller effect by your action. But we give away authority and control because of the pain or the fear of loss. And what do? Well, it's going to happen anyways. But if you're not in control of it, they are. And if they're in control of it, the cost is going to be 100% greater than if you would have made the decision to lead well or to let go earlier. But it all starts with this. It begins with you. If you're a leader of people, it doesn't start with the people you're leading. You can't point fingers there. They're a product of it's like our children. They're a product of the people that raise them. Your teams, your people are products of the culture and the leadership in that organization. I'm sorry, pick your feet up. I don't mean to offend you, but don't think it's not. Now, you may get some bad apples. I get it. There's people that come, trust me, there's people that get by the door and you don't even realize it. And you think they put on a great show and, oh, they're great. And 6 months in, you're going, how'd they get in here? I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about that. Okay, we got to keep moving. We only got a few minutes. So this last part, retaining top talent. Oh my gosh, we could spend a lot of time here. It's on your book. I want to go through this. The issue is we're losing people because of something we're not doing or because they found a better job. This retaining top talent. Here's what I want to suggest to you just as we go through this, because there isn't one way to retain them. Your business is unique. What you do is unique. How do you retain them? I can't give you that answer. We can talk about 1,000 ideas, but here's what I do know. You need to be willing to look at yourself and look at why they're leaving. You got a page of 15 at the back plus ones I gave you. Look at these. Eliminate. The ones in your book. Give some of those out for me. What are the sums that I put in your notes? Did I have those in there?
Yep.
So what are some of the ones that says why people are leaving? Go ahead and just give them to me. I bulleted them for you. Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
Loudly, they're having issues hearing the other people in the room.
Okay, so when you guys speak up, speak a little louder. Yep, go ahead.
No opportunity for advancement.
So one reason the people are leaving, retaining top talent, they're leaving because no opportunity for advancement. What else?
Lack of feedback.
Lack of feedback. What else?
Terrible bosses.
Okay, bosses that are out of control. They're no good. What else?
Job wasn't as expected.
Job wasn't as expected. It wasn't what they thought. Expectations weren't clear. What else?
Seeking more challenging work.
They're seeking more challenging work, okay?
Want higher pay and benefits.
They want better pay and benefits, market value or better. I'm not talking about extremes now. There's extremes that we can't, just got to get rid of the extremes and go at the center. Good people, good things. Every one of those things is anything that she just mentioned, and there's more. Are any of those things that you as an employer or as a leader of people can't address or begin to deal with and focus on? Is there anything in there that's out of your ability to address and look at and reevaluate? Answer should be no. I mean, you can't control what people do and how much money they want, right? I get that, but every one of those things, why people are leaving, those things that are causing them to go out the door, are typically issues and things that we can do better at as an organization or company. They're things that we can be intentional about addressing and talking about, clarifying our vision and values, creating pathways and opportunities, making sure that they're getting market value or better and they're getting the benefits they deserve. They're worth it. They're your greatest asset. Most of the reasons people are leaving are because of things that you have the ability to do something about. The problem is the tipping point has gone so far over, they don't care anymore. You can try to address it now, but it's so far gone. You ever been there where things have built up, and by the time you actually say something and you're leaving, there's no way you're fixing it anyways?
That's an exit interview.
Exactly right.
It's way too late.
It-
You find out why somebody's leaving in an exit interview.
Yeah, and here's the thing about exit interviews, you shouldn't have them. They're a waste of time because you're looking back at yesterday, not looking forward to tomorrow. You should never be surprised for the most part if someone's leaving because of the journey you take with them along the way. And if you're leading well, you'll know that they're positioning to go somewhere else. Not all cases, but most of those.
Doesn't that help the one that's still staying there understand what the problem was and she can fix something?
Yes and no. That about 2% of it is true because you've got a person who's leaving who's going to dump and say a lot of things that you don't know are true. Now it's on me. You share all that. Now I'm carrying those thoughts and going, well, did that person really say that? And were they really disgruntled here? And were they? So now I've filtered my whole team through what they're saying. And that's not a productive way to grow your company.
One boss should be able to, like you said, filter.
We shouldn't be filtering as they're leaving. They should have been filtering the whole way through. And if we wait to the end to do that, all you're going to get is the throw up. And there may be some good nuggets in the throw up, but most of it's not. And then our emotions, we're connected to the stuff in it that's not. And really everything in the throw up's no good.
You know, sometimes there's just a shelf life, you know? People have a shelf
100%.
Are you trying to tell me something?
Okay, so listen, we're about out of time, guys, and it's really important that I honor your time. So we can keep going, but I hope you're provoked, right? I hope that willing to reevaluate and relook at. And if you're an employee and you're stuck in one of these situations, have a conversation with your boss, with your manager. Say, hey, can we talk? Not from a place of offendedness or frustration, but saying, hey, I like being here, but it's really hard right now. This is not, can we talk about some of these things? Where are we going? How can I be involved? Engage in a proactive way, right? And then if it doesn't work out and you learn more, then you do what you need to do. We didn't even talk about the poaching thing, right? Because that's the other thing is they're looking now for your good people. They're going to pull them out. And the cost of that is crazy. So why don't you spend some energy and time trying to find out how we keep them, not beg them, not bribe them, but grow with them, right? And then if they leave, it's a blessing. It's not a disaster. So I want you to do this. We've got the last minute. If you got a second, I want you to just kind of think about it. You don't have to do it right now. Is write down. I'm going to do a drawing. So we've got a drawing. Write down a couple things that you want to take away while it's fresh. That's the learn, live, lead. I always talk about learn something, how you're going to change your life because of what you learn, who you're going to share it with. Everything I do, those three things are really important. What did you learn, right? What are you going to do about what you learned? That's the what's next. And then who can you share it with? Because that's leadership. That's giving it away. Okay? And so here's one of the what's next that I want to share with you guys real quickly. Two things that I do. All right. One of those things is training, leadership development, all these things that we're talking about here. I'd love to do a deep dive with your company, help you talk about employee engagement, help you talk about improving communications and the things that you need to begin to institute. But I'm starting, and we offered this in August. We didn't make because it was just, I got a lot of people wanted to, but August is hard because of school. So I'm reoffering becoming a person of influence. We're going to talk about what it means, not to be an influencer, social media, that's different. But what does it mean to be a person of influence who is heard and understood and is raising up people of influence? What does that look like? We're going to do a 5-week mastermind. It's going to start in September. I'd love for you to be a part of that. You, your teams, your organizations, we can do it in-house or we can do it personally. And we're going to use John Maxwell's book, Becoming a Person of Influence. I'm going to do a drawing. Christy, will you grab the bowl so I can do a drawing with somebody? So I'm going to give this book away to you guys. This is the book we'll go through in a workbook, but you can get information, and it should be being dropped in your, did you drop it in there? So if you want to sign up to get more information, you can. The other thing I do is I do executive leadership coaching. I do legacy success coaching. I'll sit with you and help you wrestle through these. We all have blinders and we don't realize it. What a coach does is help you pull back the blinders to see what you can't see, and to help you make a plan to get to where you want to go. But like you had said, we're so stuck in the weeds sometimes, it's hard and we think we can't. But if you don't get intentional to get out of the weeds, and that's what I help people do, is come out of the weeds, look down into it, come up with strategies and plans to get from where you are to where you want to be, you or your company. So I would love to talk to you and visit with you about what coaching looks like for you and your organization and your team. Okay, we're getting some stuff here. You guys online, I want to thank you. As always, there's other services that we do that you guys can see there. Things that I can do for your company. I'd love to partner with you. Here's the question I started with. Great information. Okay. Was it okay? Was it helpful? Yeah. Okay. So my question is, what's next? What's next? What are you going to do with it? No one needs more information. You don't need more information. It's nice, but if you don't do anything with it, then it's worthless. It's taking up space where you got much more important things to talk about. Okay? So I'm going to give away 2 books. First one is John Maxwell's book, Today Matters. It's a great book of focus on today. How do you make the most out of your day? All right, what does it look like to make today matter? So I'm going to draw that one for somebody in here. That's not as many cards as there are people in here. Who is it?
Kimberly Reeves.
Kimberly, ready? You good? I'll pass it back. I won't throw the book. All right, and then John Maxwell, Becoming a Person of Influence. And this is Lisa Woodson. Will you hand that back to Lisa? So Lisa, now that you're getting that book, you need to be in the program that we're going to start in September, right? Then you already got your book. Okay. All right, guys, so we've gone over 3 minutes over. Forgive me. Typically, I'm done a little bit early. I got a little bit passionate today. I think this is a real valuable topic. I'd love to keep talking with you. Please reach out to me if you've got any questions. You guys in the room, thank you for being here. The room's filling up again. We will do this again. We do it the second Tuesday of every month. We're here on a different topic. And we'll be rolling that out in the next couple of weeks so you know. Second Tuesday, 12 to 1, we're right here, Transformational Leadership Series. And remember, if you want the newsletter that comes out, it's growing all-star teams in a hybrid world. That was a long breath. Sign up for that. That comes out tomorrow. You'll get that newsletter in your box. So guys, God bless you. Thank you for being here. Praying for you and believing in you guys, and look forward to getting with you guys next month. Online, thanks for being here. Thanks for engaging and participating.
Thank you.